more people than the people whose names I called, but nevertheless we're going to try and get a sense tonight just of people's interests and motivations and what brings you to this particular watering hole this evening. And we'll do that in the simple function of going around in a circle. This is a little different from most of the many, many workshops I've done at Esalen because Mark is here. He is the gentle giant of virtual reality, the man who hacked Vermal. Take a good look, your grandchildren will ask. And so it's an honor to entice him into this arena of discourse, and as you'll quickly find, he's very good at what we do here. So tonight will be strictly introductory, and we'll go around, meet you, you'll meet Mark, you'll meet me, we'll talk a little, and we'll pack you off to bed by 10 a.m. because 10 p.m. It's not a rave by 10 p.m. because a lot of people have come hundreds of miles today. Before we go around, just let me say the motivation for this became in my mind, Mark didn't remember ever meeting me, and so now in my own mind I'm not sure we ever met at all. But you can take your choice of two stories. Either I met Mark in 1994 at the SIGGRAPH conference where we rode together from a hotel to an exhibition hall and talked about how he might come to Esalen, or I met a friend of Mark's who seemed much shorter, much lighter, and an entirely different person. But we talked about Mark so much that I recollected it as actually meeting him, to the point where I felt no trepidation at all about sending him email and saying, how would you like to come to Esalen, as per our discussion and fantasy of many years ago. So that's how all that happened. My interest in virtual reality in virtual reality springs from the naive faith that whatever else it may be, it's a technology that will allow us to show each other the inside of our own heads, and that it's primarily a tool for art, and hence communication, and hence very important in synergizing whatever community the future holds. And I think these things are pretty self-explanatory and clear. Other aspects of virtual reality touch on metaphysics and media and human psychology and the mysteries of code and mathematics and the ontology of reality itself. I mean, virtual reality permits thinking about reality in ways that you never could before, because you had no platform outside of it from which to view it. Well, it's amazing how fast time moves in these things, so I want to begin and just go around and get a feeling for who's here and what their priorities are. These things are most fruitful when pushed by the agendas of the people involved. I know what I think. In this case, I don't know what Mark thinks, so I have something to look forward to as well. But if you don't get what you want, it's probably because you didn't ask for it, because we're incredibly compliant folk around here. What's your angle on all this?
Okay, I'm Brian Duffy. I was introduced to you 4 months ago at a hiking seminar here. Not personally, but through a tape, and listened to it. Read one of your books, visited your website, saw that you were going to be here now, and I'm no more.
Good. follow this man's model. Not all about me, but just who you are, why you're here, and like that. And remember, in a social situation like this, under time constraints, absence of brevity is proof of psychosis. Do recall that. We're looking. Yeah.
So Bang, I've been involved with computers for a long time, in a lot of different roles, and more than just curiosity.
Fine. Let's go along the wall, come forward.
Lawrence Kinchlow, I'm a Monterey resident for many years. I do dream workshops, one in September if anyone's interested, about dream recovery. I'm just recently getting involved with the internet and studied and taken lots of psychedelics and studied inner space for several years.
I'm Janet Gordon, and I have a small business on the Monterey Peninsula, and I wouldn't miss this very much.
I'm Rajni, and I'm interested in Terence's work, and I've read some of your books, and last summer I had an experience of ayahuasca journey, and my life is about the same. And I know that you've written about that, and that's why I'm here. And as far as virtual reality, that's totally like, I'm not a computer person, so mixing the two together, plant medicine, technology, is like, no, so I have a lot of resistance about that. I'm interested in it. I think it's good. I think it will be good.
No, we will show that it's a seamless web. I'm infatuated now with moving along the back wall, so...
I'm Ronan Howell, and Mark invited me to come down here to participate in this and contribute some of my ideas, as well as music. I'm a DJ. I've been working with Mark for about 5 years, and I'm also a researcher in the psychedelic field and the world wisdom traditions, and so I'm here to groove with everybody.
My name is Nathan. I'm very interested in kind of the trends in the evolution of society and consciousness. I used to be really into computers and virtual reality for a while, so it's going to be interesting to kind of weave some of my interests together here.
I'm Alice. I don't really have any expectations about looking like that. I'm just really curious to see how everything kind of comes together.
Let's go back up here and come around.
Steve, we were here with my wife a few months ago. Wanted to come back, and he said, "Do you look through the book?" And I said, "Find something you think I might like." So I think with the psychedelics and the internet, and I have no idea who you are.
Cool. I don't either. Some of our best people are working on it. No, some of the most fun people in these things are the people who say, well, we could only come at this time, so then we checked in this afternoon and looked in the catalog, and it was between you and moving on and letting go. Anyway, we aim to please. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm one of these guys. I'm a work scholar here, and I didn't know anything about you guys. And but some people told me they had been to the visiting teacher program, and they were very enthusiastic. So I bought the book and was reading, and I was very interested. I had psychedelic experience a long time before. I didn't take them for a long time because I'm afraid. So this is also an approach for me to come closer again. And also I'm very new, and I just bought a computer like half a year ago, and I'm coming into this field. I'm very interested. So yeah, I'm open. This is my last weekend here in Amsterdam. So, and
Name's Raphael Barker. I met someone while I was living in Italy a few weeks ago who raved about you, and he was surprised I didn't hear about you. So he said he took over Timothy Leary's throne and whatnot. So I looked you up, found the website, and started exploring it, and got freaked out that I couldn't understand the novelty theory, and decided to come take the workshop because you mentioned Esplin, which I hadn't heard of either. So I decided to leave my family and leave everything behind and take both this workshop, the workshop I just finished, a month long on Ericksonian hypnosis. So, I'm just kind of bombarded with information, left my family behind, and hoping this will be kind of a stepping stone for me in a sense as I go back to New York and try to carve a niche. My interests are in film, and I have and cyberpunk. I have a very strong love-hate relationship with technology, and of late I've been approaching it with a little more interest in more of the tools instead of kind of a controlling 1984 type of just the mentality I had before. So things are changing for me, and I'm interested in your guys' perspective. I have a lot more things, but my ears getting rested and stuff.
No, that's good. Yeah.
My name is Owen Rowley. I have a moderate history of working in virtual reality, starting with Autodesk and a couple of other things, and working with Mark in the early days of Vermal. I'm a witch and practitioner of magical arts, and I don't know a damn thing.
My name is Gary, and I'm very interested in a lot of the ideas I've heard and read from you in the past. I'm definitely interested in new ways to look at the future now or experience it as much as possible.
I'm Lynn Shamshland, and I've seen Terence before, and I've read one of your books. I've long since forgotten it, but I enjoyed it. And I just thought that it would be cool to see you again and see if you had any good examples of the novelty you would expect to see soon, and how you might combine with another person while you're talking. And I never knew a reason to come here this time of year with all the shooting stars, and it's just really fun to get away from the kids and be around somebody like you who travels all around the world and be around some of the greatest minds ever. That's just, maybe it'll be catching.
My God, you remind me that tonight the peak of the Leonids? Perseus? Is it tonight, the peak?
I don't know if it's tonight.
This almost slipped by me, and it's supposed to be major this year, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, so that's a reason to go to the tubs late tonight, folks, if that's happening. Thank you for mentioning that. I made a mental note to be on it, but then I'm on the road and I forget. Yeah.
My name is Sharon, and up until about this time last year, I didn't have a clue that so many computer artists and people that were developing their tools were actually using psychedelics as an important part of their work. And then I read a book by Douglas Rushkoff called Siberia, reading about designer drugs and how people that were taking those, the ones that were pushing themselves the furthest, were actually designing consciousness. And then I've heard about virtual reality projects like Osmos that have a very profound perception. So my question is, if you think there is some kind of a convergence on some level of computers, virtual reality, and consciousness, and if so, what is the responsibility of those that are in the role of designing it, and what is the responsibility of those of us that are witnessing it?
Yeah, well, I'm sure this will be rolled over and dealt with. Yeah.
Hi, my name is James, and I have a background in psychology, psychobiology, holistic health, yoga, and I'm a computer professional. I have been following both Terence and Mark's work for some time now, and I am here because I find that certain things form as attractors, and I get pulled where I need to be at that particular time, and I'm here today, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
The combined force of two black holes. Yeah.
I'm Alex here, and I saw you talk about 3 years ago and never let go of Time Wave Zero. And I also have a computer experience, computer background, whatever you want to call it. I once saw an iMac commercial.
and you post frequently to Novelty.
Yeah, I used to. Yeah.
Yeah. How many people here are on the Novelty list?
Not that you've ever seen me post.
Yeah. Cool.
How many people have ever posted to them?
I've posted.
No.
That's about it. Yeah, well, lurkers outnumber posters by 10 to 1, I think. Which probably isn't a bad thing, given what is posted. All right, let's go to the back wall. And
my name's Harvey. It's kind of a stretch for me, but I've always been interested in ideas of creation, and recently kind of stuck into the virtual reality thing a little. Fascinated with the ideas of core avatars, and always kind of poked my own psychoactive drugs. So the course description was just very intriguing to me. And,
yeah, good. Yeah.
My name's Andrew Jones. I read half of one of your books, quite by chance, and thought I'd try and get the other half from the horse's mouth. I'm interested very much in traditional cultures and in explore Greek mythology, and very interested in Henry Kaufman's descriptions of creative imagination. Interested in those relationships, and wanted to see how you put it all together. I know nothing about computers and nothing about the relationship of both of you, so I'm interested to see how that evolves.
Henri Corbin, so you're familiar with his stuff on Ismailian Mazdism and...
Very interested in that.
Yeah, very good. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
Paul, I have a last name that nobody uses. I'm part of S1, that's why I'm here.
Paul's the guy who gave me a career. He found me in a bar in New Jersey years ago. People will pay to listen to this. That isn't quite how it happened, but something like that. Okay, let's come forward. Yeah.
I'm Paul. Also, I have a last name, Scotland. Let's see. I grew up in that bar in New Jersey. I am chiefly a composer of music, and with that, rather computer-oriented in both as tools and the music I compose is often for computer applications or internet. Let's see. I think I probably first read Terence somewhere in the range of 20 years ago, I guess, and I have been exploring for research purposes only psychedelia for 25 years. So probably figured I was only 25 anyway. But I just got really old and stayed looking down like research. 4 years ago, I moved to San Francisco and I saw Mark Peasce talk at the Exploratorium, and he was talking a lot about this thing called the World Wide Web, and I, along with most of the world, had never heard of the World Wide Web 4 years ago, which is kind of hard to believe today. He also said the phrase world song, and though I didn't know what he meant by world song, and he didn't actually describe it very accurately during that talk, I knew somehow inherently what I thought world song ought to be, and so as a thinker about sound and the world, I pictured the entire internet being used as some sort of musical instrument, or people singing together using the internet as the transmission source. And so then Mark and I went on to try to sort of structure or build that thing that would allow people to, say, tone together over the internet. And we did that first at SIGGRAPH in 1996. Mark tells me. That was 5 actually, but I think it was. All right, he says 6. So anyway. We did a singing experiment using the internet. We had people in Norway and Vancouver, Montreal, Kansas, New York, and
New Orleans,
where we were at SIGGRAPH. And we all actually sang together and saw each other with avatars. One avatar would represent the whole group in that city at that point. So there's 5 avatars. And it worked. It was actually terribly fun. It was quite fun. And we went on to do 2 other major experiments of that sort. One at the Digital Bee in San Francisco. And mostly to me, those were just proof of concepts. They were in order to turn people that were working in the computer industry onto the concept that audio being used in the internet was a conduit for the transmission and transmutation of human consciousness. And that's kind of a wordy way to say that audio had a strong power in terms of the internet. And so we did that, and now I'm waiting for the next step. I'm really here. I saw Terence once, and I love Time Wave Zero. It makes a lot of sense, but I can't quite believe that everything's going to end in 2012. However, as a researcher and as a musician, I'm interested kind of in the sound of what that would be. So then, finally, Mark asked me to come down, and we're maybe going to do one of these vocal exercises that we do. We won't do it over the internet. Real life is actually more fun. Thanks.
Tomorrow. Cool.
Yeah.
And you?
Hi, my name is Susan Mazer, and I'm a publicist, but I like to think of it more like a media manipulator, because I do it really different than a lot of the people, and it works. And because of this, I guess I know a lot of people who write, and Mark is one of those people. The last time I saw Terence was with Richard Metzger, who's another person who writes. And so that's one reason I'm here. I'm also here because I'm really deeply involved in electronic music and rave culture, where the ideas that we're going to talk about this weekend are almost treated as like the accepted spirituality, which is amazing. And they're all like 17-year-olds, and there's thousands of them, and it's amazing. And and I'm working on some theories about bass frequencies and how they interact with brains on psychedelic drugs and people together, and the messages in the bass, and so I love Mark, and I gave myself a birthday present and a first-year anniversary of my business present this weekend.
My name is Steve Peasce. I'm an artist, and I work primarily visually in the digital medium. I've done 2D and 3D design. I've done some remote virtual reality design. The first time I ever saw anything on the internet, I knew that it was going to be the next thing in communications and in art. And I've been pursuing that ever since. And I'm very interested in Terence's theories, and I see many parallels between things that you talked about with prehistoric man turning into civilized man and growing and evolving through the centuries as to what's happening on the internet currently. So that's why I'm here.
Good.
John Prince, middle-aged shroomer, showed up at Terence about 6 years ago, showed up every year, resisted the computer and the web and all that, and now it's like, it's coming, it's got me, and here I am. I feel like you too.
It's here to stay, dude.
Yeah, I know.
It's definitely here to stay.
Hi, I'm Gerard Hall, and I live down south in Laguna Beach. I'm a gardener and a sculptor. And I had no idea this was going to have anything to do with computers. And last week I got my first Mac. And I'm signing up for the World Wide Web. My little disc is supposed to come. And you put it in, and you're connected with AT&T, and you get started. And
doors open, yes.
And Well, the phrase neo-paganism just like electrified me because I feel very comfortable with ancient religions, and also the mushroom thing. I'd like to well, actually, I'd like to be able to find a shortcut to that door, to that incredible beauty, that overwhelming beauty of nature. It's almost spiritual. And I don't know, maybe pass it on or somehow share it, or it's so overwhelming. And I heard some of your tapes, and I liked what you had to. I liked your wordage. It expanded my thinking. So I can. I flew. This is my summer vacation.
Welcome.
My name is Cheryl, and I've been listening to Terence for many years now, and I've always greatly admired and appreciated the artistry with which you use language, and also the creative way that you put ideas together. And I'm always interested in anything that stretches my scope of understanding and awareness, like you were saying. And Mark, I haven't met you, but I've read about you, and I'm very curious to be privy to the inner workings of your mind and to watch the two of you interact with one another.
It'll be different than when I did the thing with Michael Murphy, I think.
I'm sure.
My name's Jim. Spending 2 weeks with you just now, Terence, has really expanded my thinking, and I'm looking forward to some more.
Great. Jim hears all this stuff and tapes it all, and so he's a well-worn pebble.
I'm John Perry. I'm a lit scholar, and I'm just finishing this weekend, and I very much wanted to come in and learn as much from you as I could.
Great. I'm glad you're here. Kathleen?
I'm Kathleen, and I just investigate consciousness, whatever's in front of me, however it's given to me, and I hang out a lot from here to here. I've brought this little list of botanical seed sources that I've put together, and that I'll pass these around. I think these plants should be in our lives and on our porches and in our salads. And
cool.
So they're lists of plants that have a history of healing or shamanic visionary use. And some of the catalogs that you'll send for, they wax very poetic about it. The catalogs are almost as much fun as the plants.
That's fantastic, Kathleen. You're on the ball. Thank you. Let's continue along the wall for a bit here.
My name is Lee. I'm a composer and musician. I've been up here several times now for this. And my main interests are novelty theory, increasingly rapid rate of change, seeing possibilities into convergence of all sorts of things. Had some interest in psychedelics, and also very interested in the internet in regards to artificial intelligence.
AI. Yes, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about artificial life as well, which is, I think you're interested in that, I'm interested in that. That's a coming thing for sure.
I'm Brian Holloway, I'm a sculptor. But basically 2 reasons I'm here. One, I always enjoy the crowd that this always draws. And two, hearing Terence speak is like the curio shop on the side of the road in your life that you don't know why you have to stop there, but you stop there and you get something that you never expected to find.
Kitsch. the snake farm. Yeah.
My name is Catherine Robinson, and I'm a costume designer, and of course doing movies in LA mostly. And this is my 7th workshop with Terence, and I always come for a brain tingle, and I always get one. And also, I've just made some really great friends at these things, and there's not a lot of time, so you have to work quickly. So I'm available. And I also wanted to just invite you. We started a tradition of reveling around the fire on Saturday night. So after the festivities on Saturday night, if anyone wants to mosey down to the fire after the tubs or something like that, we tend to stay up rather late and have a really good time.
It goes till dawn often. Yeah, let me just say on that point that, regardless of what you're looking for, odds are someone in this room has that. And in the nature of the game, it is not Mark or I ultimately. So, we look like the rest of the population, but self-select to be here. So it's a wonderful opportunity to hone social skills, make new friends and connections.
Well put.
My name is Susan, and I too have been here a number of times. And, being a philosopher from a little kid all the way through my life, I like to hear the new ideas and be involved, like you said, all the people who show up at these things, and all the Terry's kids who hang out. And I quote you frequently, so I need new material.
So the pressure's on. So let's come back here and then...
My name's Richard Milner, and I guess this is the 3rd workshop I've done with Terence, and you're always a trip. I've been trying to reconcile perception and reality for some time, and I finally concluded there is no such thing as reality. And I work in the financial business. I'm an investment advisor. I've been trading in the markets for years, and I've seen these incredible flows of money changing as technology changes, and the applications of virtual reality to money management and all this stuff, which is part of it. But finally, we're looking at economics as a complex adaptive system, just as is happening in all the physical and biological sciences. And I'm trying to reconcile the stuff you're talking about as far as novelty and discontinuous events, and so much of what happens in our markets are discontinuous by their very nature, and reconcile them in terms of technology and computers and how the world is changing and we're changing as we're all linking together and where that goes. And at the back of my mind is always that wonderful book by Arthur C. Clarke called Childhood's End.
Great book.
In which there's a major shift.
An eschaton.
An epiphany. An eschaton.
Exactly. So I'm here for part of the ride. I want to see what's going on.
Yeah, in George Dyson's book Darwin Among the Machines, he says there is nothing as much like thought as money, and then gives examples of how money works like thought, and in a sense then is the precursor of the global nervous system of the internet, which is built as an architecture of mind/money. Interesting. Yeah.
My name is Neil, and I came at first because I've seen you speak on your tour for True Hallucinations, and that was like hearing Terence speak for the first time was like tripping in itself. And I've never recovered, and I just wanted to continue. And then when I found out that you were part of it, I looked up his net page and some other things. I read your article in Salon, and so it was like I had to come.
You had an article in Salon recently?
Recently, last month, about virtual
cool.
art.
Do you all read Salon online? Oh, it's had the best coverage of the president's situation, and it doesn't see it like the bullshit right-wing, slow-moving coup, crypto-fascist witch hunting. It sees it very, very differently and reports it very intelligently, and has broken story after story about corruption in the special prosecutor's office, and leaked grand jury material, and paid off witnesses, and off-the-record meetings, and Salon.com. It's the best political writing.
Salonmagazine.com.
Sorry.
Salon Table Talk Rocks.
Yeah. Salon.
Salon
Check it
Magazine.
Out. The Cognoscenti Now. Salon. Yeah.
I'm Michael, and I'm on a novelty kick. I've been a computer programmer for 15 years, and I've stopped that. And I wondered what technology was about. And so now I'm hiking into wilderness areas with a digital camera and finding patterns in nature. I'm not sure why. Yep. And for me, it's reconnecting myself with my God, which I call the great outdoors, G-O-D. It's not only great outdoors as far as nature, but great outdoors as in moving through a door. We have a door and we go out the door.
The great outdoors.
So I'm walking around the great outdoors with a digital camera, filming patterns.
Cool.
And I'd actually, why do you not videotape your sessions?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea why.
Is the question, can you?
Yes, I can.
No, well, we can arrange it. I just never bother because I smoke too much dope, frankly. Worry about stuff like that. I mean, it sounds like a splendid idea, like so much that would happen if I stopped smoking cannabis.
One thing I would like to add is that I have been a photographer of film, and film sees the world one way. And I have noticed now with a digital camera and with psychoactive tools, there's a relationship formed through the digital camera to the source, the energy. And a digital camera sees that differently than film.
Very good. You.
Actually, I have an FYI in the Esalen library, the video library that you could actually check out. You have the most listing by 2.5 pages of video of content here.
We used to shoot stuff years ago, but once they caught on to the fact that I endlessly repeat myself, they sort of folded that. But yeah, there's plenty. Don't worry, I'm not about to be erased from the historical record. Yeah.
My name is Frank. I've been here many times. I've been keenly interested in just the relationship between mind, body, mind, spirit since I was a young boy. I've experimented with several different substances that I found that sort of open doors to. I've been facilitators toward higher consciousness. So I've been interested in Terence's work for about a year actually, when I first found out about you through a friend, Tom Watson, who
Sure.
And my work in corporate finance causes me to travel all the time, and sort of trying to rely on technology to help facilitate my work life. I'm trying to find smaller and smaller and brighter computers to help it all men, come together. So I thought this would be an appropriate workshop to sort of see how I can take technology and my quest for inner searching and sort of mold them together.
smaller and brighter, huh? Yeah.
I signed up for healing and letting go.
I mean, moving on and letting go.
I'm going to stay here. I'm Peter. I'm a painter, and I'm interested in mysticism, and I'm interested in collective unconsciousness, and interested in how the internet is manifesting that on a more conscious level as well. And this is my birthday present to myself also.
My name is Tom. I'm interested in the concept of boundaries and barriers, which I think was mentioned in the light, and how both psychedelics and the internet are breaking those boundaries. And I had an opportunity to be in the former East Journals some time ago, and we have a phrase, the wall of the mind, and I found that a very powerful phrase. The wall itself is gone, but the wall of the mind has persisted, and I think we all have them, and we certainly have them in this country also. And it's a great metaphor for me, and this workshop kind of spoke to that metaphor. I've also had a long interest in cultural anthropology and the role that psychoactive drugs or plants play in traditional cultures and that kind of thing. And we'll be teaching a course on sociology, but want to look at the impact of the internet on our culture today, and thought I'd get some material from that.
My name's Jessica. I'm in the middle of a synchronicity storm of really remarkable proportions. Terence's name keeps coming up, AI, computer stuff, collective conscious going to raves. Suddenly getting invited here for Peasce seems to be a part of it, so go ahead.
My name is Todd, and I first was made aware of Esalen through some tapes with Joseph Campbell. It sounded like a particularly interesting place, so I frequented the website, and recently I wanted to come here and was thinking, wow, gosh, about a month away, and I looked and I saw computers and psychoactive plants and the two main passions of my life coming together. I was overjoyed, and I'm here.
Yeah. My name's Chris. I'm a librarian. I live in Oakland. I took a class from Mark a year or some ago, and I reshelved one of Terence's books in January, and I just haven't looked back. That was the Archaic Revival up in the Bees, History of Religion, and so forth. And I have been interested in processional astronomy for a while, since I read Peter Tompkins' Mysteries of the Great Pyramid. And then Hamlet's Mill blew my mind. And let's see now, Philip K. Dick. I thought that
he was going to be here.
I thought he was going to be here.
He is here. He is here.
No, I thought that Archaic Revival was the first of Terence's writings that I have, and he was actually wrote the afterword or the foreword to what was it? Selections from the Exegesis.
I wrote that. Yeah. It was supposed to be a foreword, and after they read it, they announced it would be an afterword.
So I'm looking to make friends and connections here. Ever since I read about the DMT flash, I said I have to experience that. So computers, the psychedelics, the internet, and me. All right, I'm here.
You mentioned your interest in processional astronomy. Any of you who are into all of that and Hamlet's Mill and so forth and so on, there's a new book by John Major Jenkins called Maya Cosmogenesis 2012. And it's very well written. It's very scholarly. There it is. It may be in the bookstore here. I don't know. But if you care about all that it's the latest, greatest thing to read. Yeah.
I'm Eric Newdord. I'm a grad student in transpersonal psychology. Mushrooms have done a lot for my life. Made me look at how to change others' lives. That's how I got into Terence's writing. I'm interested in mysticism too, and particularly, like you mentioned in the Archaic Revival, there is a big difference between the mushroom experience and following a path, Vedanta or yoga or something. And I've always sensed that, but I've never been able to figure out exactly what the difference is. The free lunch way with a mushroom where you don't have to work for it. That's amazing. And, in this our Western culture at least, we have the Protestant work ethic, and we frown on that sort of thing. I've always been curious kind of why. So I was looking for it.
It's not exactly a free lunch. It's simply that instead of searching for the spiritual gas pedal, you suddenly become very interested in finding the brakes. Go for it, Mark.
Cosmic trigger, probably on the influence of some psychedelic drugs, but we'll come to that. And in it, he summarizes yours and your brother's work on the time wave, and he, in fact, charts out history into three major sections: the 67-year section, which will comprise the bulk of my life, an interesting 13-month section, which will happen in 2011, and then an interesting 6-day section, which will happen immediately preceding the winter solstice in 2012. In which I believe during the last 6-day session there will be more novelty than has existed on the planet
since ever.
And I looked at this, and I had been reading. I'd started off easy, so I'd read Alvin Toffler, and then I could take a little bit more, so I worked myself up into Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, and then I came across that, and I said, well, this appears to be the case. It was confirmed to me internally in a way that I could not particularly argue with. I could not argue out of. It was simply a foundational fact. And all of my work thereafter was based on a premise that the universe is seeking a type of closure, that in fact things are converging. And so my own life study had been perhaps an exploration of what those avenues of convergence were. And it ended up over a period of years that my own life story became a search to create the forms of that convergence. So we'll now flash forward to my first experience of virtual reality, which happened in 1990 and required absolutely no technology except about 500 micrograms of LSD-25. I'd been thinking, I'd been reading, and all of a sudden I drop acid after several years. And of course, if you've taken several years break and all of a sudden thrust yourself back into that realm, you can find that things really pop up. And I found myself in a virtual world. And what I found in this virtual world, the thing that I must have suspected that I would find in this virtual world, wasn't an artificial Tron-like environment. It wasn't something that was entirely artificial. What I beheld in that environment was an image of the planet, as if I was cruising above it in a spaceship. And I knew that part of my own destiny as connected with virtual reality wasn't to escape into another dimension, but to find a way to make real to us the things that we can't always see, because we exist at a level of scale, of experience that hides them from us. And at that point in my life, I decided I needed to leave New England and come to California, where everything was really going on. This was 1990, and VR was the hot new thing. And we forget now that VR was the hot new thing before the internet became the hot new thing, but for a while, it was the cheese. And I moved to San Francisco, which made it much easier to get good drugs. And I started to explore, by working, by building systems, what virtual reality was. And this started to have a profound change on my own understanding of how reality was constructed, because my psychedelic description of reality, which is that mind forms reality, began to conflate or become identical with my physical or scientific description of reality, which is that mind forms reality. And all of a sudden I understood that everything I used to understand about the way the universe works wasn't as true as I had thought.
And so this began to inspire in me a search to get to some basic level of being that would allow me to work in a world that was manifest because of my own will, and just as much as manifest because of your own will. Because where we're going, the simulated and the real are going to get really blurry. And we don't have any tools. We don't have any tools of mind. Western culture, which is based on this idea of this objective external reality, it's not hard. It's all become very soft, and it's all flowing together. So we need to now start to find ways of describing what's going on. And so what we need to do, I found in my own investigations, is to take a look at cultures that describe the world magically, that understand that perception shapes what you are, and you shape what you see, and that they're not separate areas, they're not separate domains, but you have to consider them as a whole. So the four sort of prongs that got talked about in the blurb that was written for this piece are techno-paganism. And techno-paganism is maybe, you could describe it a bunch of different ways, and I certainly didn't make the word up, and I certainly didn't apply the word to myself, but it stuck because Wired magazine published an article 2 years ago with my face blazoned on it, Photoshop reversed in color, and said, "This is a techno-pagan." And really what it was trying to do was trying to articulate my own experience of being thrust into this world where everything was melting and nothing was solid, and trying to come to grips with it philosophically, trying to come to grips with it ontologically. And my own explorations had led me to understand that, in fact, in a world where anything you want is true, the only way you can deal with this is by learning how to deal with your will. Dealing with your will is what magic has always, in all cultures, always been about. This is why the shaman doesn't go insane when the world just disappears. He's ready for it. They're ready because they understand that where they are isn't bound up in their view of the world. The internet is a connective layer, and you were talking about this last night. It's beautiful. If you took a picture of this room in 1990 and you took a picture of it today, everything would look exactly the same, and yet everything is completely different. Because in 1990 we didn't have this layer of bits that's flowing seamlessly among all of us. And it's changed us. It's radically sped up the way we deal with information in society. And every bit of information that passes through you changes you. You cannot be unaffected in any way by any bit of information. So the internet is acting as this enormous accelerator. It's acting as something that's passing through all of us and radically transforming us. And part of what it's doing is ripping us apart. And that's dangerous. If we don't approach that carefully, and if we don't approach that with a lot of heart, we're going to find ourselves and what we think of as ourselves ripped away in that process. One of the reasons why I think it's very important that this is happening at Esalen is because if Esalen were running a political campaign, their slogan would be, "It's the body, stupid." Because it begins here and it ends here. And if we can stay in our bodies, even while we're projected into cyberspace, we have some zone for sanity. We have some zone for being. And psychedelics can produce these boundary dissolutions where you flow into another thing. Well, we're going to see, and it's actually quite true, that certain types of VR can produce precisely the same affect. There are zones where virtual reality can be very dangerous for that reason, or incredibly powerful and meaningful for that reason. So where I would like to work from this weekend is I really want to work from the heart. I personally think, in my own philosophy, that to work in technology, you have to work from the heart center, because otherwise you'll create golems, you'll create Frankensteins, your creations will run away from you. And that's the essence of the story of the golem, is that this is a creature that was created with the breath of life, but without the light of knowledge or the heart of God. So we really have to work from that. And one of the things that we'll be doing this weekend for that, and we're inviting you, I don't think we're requiring you, because that would just not be in the tenor of this place, but we're inviting you at 7:30 in the morning, both tomorrow and Sunday, to come practice Kundalini Yoga. And Kundalini Yoga works very much on the heart center. It's not strenuous. I guarantee it will be fun. We have a very good teacher, James, who will be teaching this. And the idea is that with these exercises, we can help to open up our heart center so that when we talk tomorrow, when we meet tomorrow, we can really be working from that. Even when we're talking about these ideas that may be very technologically relevant, they won't be isolated in our minds. That all said, I also want to explore the joyous nature of what we can do. And a lot of my work has been around exploring the joyous nature of what we can do. We have to, if we're working from our hearts in these environments, then a part of what we want to do is be joyous in these environments. One of my biggest gripes about the internet is that it can't, as yet, contain the tenor of human emotion, which is so important. If we're building this edifice to be the global mind and it can't laugh, we've got a big problem. If it can't sing, we have a big problem. And so one of the things we'll be doing probably in the evening on Saturday is doing something we call voce, which Paul and I have been working on. We call it world song or voce, which is a singing or toning technique. And it can produce a quality of connection in a group of people, which is the closest I've heard it described as almost like instant ecstasy in the sense of the drug. And it's a temporary sort of lowering of interpersonal barriers in a really, really wonderful way. And hopefully at the end of all of this, I will have been inspired, and Terence will have been inspired by what you had to say, and we'll be able to bring that heart-centeredness, which has to, I believe, remain at the heart of how we work when we're working in the world and with technology in the world.
Isn't he a great guy? If I had the Timothy Leary laurels with me, I'd hand them on. The bad penny could pass. Well, I love listening to Mark rap this stuff, and he really knows where he's coming from, and it's exciting stuff. I've been into this psychedelic thing since the late 60s, and it's transformed in different ways, and there's been a strange sort of literary parallelism or cloud over my own life, so that as my obsessions evolved, society obligingly evolved in the same directions. And when I got started with psychedelics, it was because I was interested in the mystical experience, a la Jakob Burma and Thomas Traherne and all that sort of thing. And I had read Aldous Huxley's book, The Doors of Perception. So it was a spiritual intentionality. And as time passed, I was completely satisfied in that, but I also became interested then in what were psychedelics in terms of their impacts on large numbers of people and on human social and cultural evolution, because to me it was just this incredible power, this dimension which my own culture completely denied and overlooked, but that obviously from the first time I had a major trip on, it was clear to me that this had to have evolutionary implications. And it seemed to me, as I read my Darwin and Freud, that there had to be some kind of quickening influence in human emergence that, if not outright transcendental, was certainly unique and out of the ordinary order of nature. And so then I spent years thinking about psychedelics' implications for human evolution, and most of you, if you're interested, know my theories about all this. Well, then the engagement with it extended further, and I began to see it as a lens for coordinating large amounts of data in order to essentially prophesize the future. That the future, somehow I had the notion that history and the individual life built around the psychedelic experience were fractal reflections of each other. And that led to the conclusion that history is a trip. And that led to the conclusion that the best was yet to come, or the yest was bet to come. I'm not sure. So it had this socio-political and historical implication, and it wasn't as simple as just imagining what would happen if societies would permit these things, but I could also see that it was a catalyst on imagination. That whatever it was that psychedelics were doing, it was taking anybody's notion of reality, anybody's mindset, and radically extending it. And if they found that comfortable, they were ecstatic, and if they found it horrifying, they were traumatized. But the common thread was takes ordinary minds, makes them bigger, stranger, more grotesque, less predictable, more bizarre. So then that was not yet the outer parameter of the issues that this phenomenon, the psychedelic experience, seemed to engage. It seemed to me that at the personal and experiential level, the thing that was so astonishing about it was not that it led, at least for me, directly to God. What it led to was more art than I conceived of existing. How was it that, in a 5-hour psilocybin trip, an ordinary person lying in darkness sees more art than is stored and cataloged in all the museums of Europe? I mean, this was confounding to me. And I had a Jungian bias, too, so I was full of the notion of the commonality of the unconscious and all that. And so I was puzzled, why don't I see these motifs in Tibetan painting, Shipibo carving? How can something which is so near, over a very slight energy threshold involved in taking these substances, be so distant from our cultural values and our store of images? And it was around this time, roughly 1990, that I began to hear the first buzz about virtual reality. And I knew, the minute I understood the concept, I knew, in the same way that I knew when I heard about the first Mac and LSD and potassium sugar perchlorate rocket fuels, that this was going to be the next great thing. And as a tool of art, as a tool for leading us beyond the notion that we are a hive society of advanced primates, because that's how we visually appear to the empirical point of view. That's an out of context description of what we are. It's like a schematic or an aerial map. What we really are is a community of mind, knitted together by codes and symbols, intuitions, aspirations, histories, hopes. The invisible world of the human experience is far more real to us than the visible world, which is little more than a kind of screen or stage upon which we move. So this thing Mark said, I heard it for the first time and got it, that the purpose of VR is to show us aspects of reality that are not artificial, but that are fields of data not ordinarily coordinated by ordinary perception. You know, Ralph Abraham, who's a favorite around here, has talked about how mathematics, which has been a high priesthood of arcane formulae and special signifying languages, is giving way to visual understanding. If you talk to someone about a 7 or 8 dimensional process, most people completely blur out. If you show them an animation of an ongoing 8-dimensional process, everybody understands without a word being said exactly what is happening. So I see virtual reality as a way not of escaping any notion of empirical reality, but as a way of reportraying invisible levels of the given world that are very vital and important to us. How we see flows of energy, how we understand complex economies, how we understand the fractal hierarchies of nature. Everything is about to get very much more complicated, much larger. The number of choices are about to exponentially explode. In a sense, these technologies point us toward, if not literal godhood, then a kind of fictional godhood. We are all going to become the masters of the narrative in which we are embedded. Our separate stories are going to take on dimensions so multifarious that for all practical purposes we will each move into a cosmos of our own creation and control. It's, in a way, all that is happening is that what is already co-present with three-dimensional reality is being literalized, but literalized in time scales that make the nature of the game apparent to all but the dullest among us. I mean, after all, we have always lived in virtual realities ever since we abandoned nomadism and defined a polis and a wilderness. And, when Hammurabi set up the first codes in Babylon, these were operating codes. These were constraints on the human system that did not fully implement its capabilities, but rather defined and limited it for purposes of implementing certain design goals. Well, now we've been in the birth canal of the design process for about 8,000 years now, and we can see light at the end of the tunnel. The French have a notion of forward escape. That means when the situation gets so crazy, then you just hit the accelerator and drive straight up the middle, and that's the forward escape. And technology represents this for us. Our ideologies are probably lethal, obviously lethal, I would say, but they are fortunately a kind of chrysalis of ideological constraint that technology is in the process of dissolving. And, William Butler saw this in the 19th century. Teilhard de Chardin reached it in the 40s and the 50s. McLuhan expressly articulated this vision in the 50s and the 60s. This is really, as Ahab tells the crew in Moby Dick, this is what you've shipped for, mates. This was the plan. Plato said, if God does not exist, man will create such a thing. And we are creating a simulacrum of our highest hopes. And the effort to define the actual delimiting architecture of our hope is an intellectual exercise that we have never previously submitted to. And what I mean by that is, when you can do anything, what do you do? We've always worked within the constraints of mortar, glass, steel, our economic scales, the physical scales. VR eliminates all of this. You know, the difference between a 10-story building and a 100-story building in virtual reality is 1 0 in a line of code. Well, with that kind of freedom, the human imagination, which has been defined by limitation, the planet's surface, the needs and wishes of others, is going to unfold in these superspaces. And, it's a Gnostic epiphany. If you believe, what it really comes down to in terms of the politics and psychology of it is a final resolution, to my mind, of the question, is man good? In other words, with all constraints removed, do we descend into a world of, Freudian nightmare and simulated sadomasochism, or do we express something which matter always mitigated against? So that's what I think is... I'm sure we will do both. I mean, the essence of choice means not only will we collectively do both, probably each and every one of us will do both, Occasionally you flop on the seamy side. It gives a literary quality to life that's lacking among the tight ass. So... well, I don't know. It's 9:45. Do you want to riff off that for a bit, and then we'll send these folks packing?
I've been piecing together an essay while I've been here, which I'm calling West of Esalen, which is interesting because if you take a look at what's west of Esalen, you see a gaping cliff which has been growing of late. And Esalen, as is all of California, is breaking off and falling into the sea. And there is no safe land anywhere. And that's more than a metaphor for where we are now. And it's interesting because there's talk about what Esalen has to do with the modern age, and yet so much of what we think of as modern language has been shaped by what's come out of this place. Talking about, somebody's vibes or being touchy-feely or even doing yoga, which is now, of course, all the rage in late millennial culture. These are all impulses that came out of this place. So there's something about this space and about the body which is incredibly right. And even if Esalen vanished tomorrow, God forbid, even if it did, the impact of it as an institution has been profound. And I think perhaps what we're trying to do here this weekend and tonight is to extend the franchise of Esalen into another realm, to say that the values that make us human, the values that make us good, are the values that come out of what's done here, and maybe the values that rely on the body in some way. That even as we talk about this Gnostic release, this uploading of the soul into some sort of silicon, which we will talk about, that there's this body that's behind sort of bitching, saying, excuse me, I'm real, and I am the potential, I am the ground in which you work. Because of that, I hope that we will spend some of the weekend not just speculating, but constantly looping and bringing it back into the body and where the body is. The question of the body is one of the largest questions in virtual reality. That's a curious contradiction, and yet it's true. Where is the body in cyberspace? Where are you when your email is flashing across the net, when your agents are doing your bidding? Where are you, and how do you maintain yourself? And it was interesting because there was a comment that was made earlier about psychedelics as a shortcut versus yoga or one of the other traditions. And I know that in my own life, I need both of them, because I need the psychedelics in order to be able to have the vision, but I need the yoga in order to maintain the stability to express the vision. And so there's both dials there. It's as if the internet is some sort of collective psychedelic, we're going to need the body as we pass through it so that we can explore the zones within ourselves that are the good.
Yeah, it's great what you say about that we're trying to push the definitions of Esalen relevance, because, you know, the entire intellectual and spiritual effort here over the past 30 years flies under the flag of the human potential movement. I mean, that's what it's called. And certainly what we're talking about here and trying to bring gently onto the stage is an enormous frontier of human potential. We are, to some degree, beginning to design ourselves, or beginning to design our potential in the service of the idea of a perfected humanity of some sort. And what we're talking about here is not genetic manipulation or eugenics or any of these somewhat dubious enterprises with a clouded history, but using technological prosthesis to extend and enrich humanness, to enrich communication. And it is, believe me, the want of good communication that is the thing probably, if anything undoes us, this will be it. That our languages failed, that we misread each other's intent, that we could not understand each other. So the project of refining language is the same project as the ending of history. I mean, history is the story of languages that failed. And when language grows perfect, history will end. And language may not look like it looks today or sound like it sounds today. The realization that's flowered in the wake of the internet and the rise of cybernetics is that everything is made of information. Information is the primary datum of being. Concepts like time and space and energy are orders of magnitude removed from the present at hand when compared with a concept like information. And as Mark said, every iota, every bit of information that passes through us, that we generate, that we transmit, changes us. So I'm seeing here almost a theosophical epiphany of language trying to bootstrap itself toward realms of Platonic perfection, which as organic beings we experience as love. Love, beauty, truth, these are the vectors of human becoming. They always have been, they always will be. And the technologies that open these paths for us are no more and no less powerful than the human beings that wield them. So, this is an enterprise of integrity and millennial implication. And what lies as the goal is true humanness in sympathetic symbiosis with the planet and with these strange children that we have brought into the world, our machines. I mean, that is the challenge at the end of history, and that's what we'll be talking about this weekend. Thanks for coming, and get some sleep. Mark, I wanted to ask you, where is the yoga?
Yoga is 7:30 tomorrow morning, because they have movements here. In the big room, in the meeting room in the big house.
In the big house, living room at 7:30.
Everyone familiar where the big house is? It's across the bridge, and it's the big house. Okay.
The big house.
As opposed to the little house, which it sits opposite from. And it's the big house, 7:30, please. You'll enjoy it. If you have a blanket or something, bring it. It'll be comfy, but if not, don't worry about it.